2026 will not be won by luck, talent, or motivation, but by what you do before 8 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want a different life, you must start by having a different morning, because how you begin is not neutral, it is directional. Most people don't wake up and take control of the day. They wake up and surrender to it. They check messages, they scroll opinions, they absorb other people's emergencies, and then they wonder why they feel distracted, drained, and defeated before noon. But the future does not belong to the reactive. The future belongs to the intentional. In 2026, the perfect morning routine is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters first. You don't wake up late and then try to catch up. You wake up early and get ahead. You don't ask, what do I feel like doing? You ask, who must I become today? The first rule of the perfect morning is this: do not give the world access to your mind before you do. Your phone is not evil, but it is impatient. It wants your attention before you've established your direction. So before notifications, before news, before noise, you decide the narrative. You prime your mind, because a focused mind will always outperform a frantic one. Then you move your body, not to look good, but to think clearly. Motion creates emotion. Energy creates execution. A still body produces a sluggish mind, but a disciplined body produces decisive thinking. Next, you feed what truly leads you, your inner compass. Gratitude before ambition, purpose before pressure. When you start your day grounded, problems shrink and priorities sharpen. And then, this is critical, you choose one thing, not 10, not a list to impress yourself. One meaningful action that moves your life forward, because success doesn't come from being busy, it comes from being aligned. When you win the morning, you don't hope the day goes well, you expect it to. And here's the truth most people miss: you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your routines. The perfect morning routine in 2026 isn't trendy, it's timeless. It's discipline over distraction, design over default, purpose over pressure. So tomorrow morning, don't wake up asking, what do I have to do? Wake up asking, what kind of person does my future require me to be today? Because the life you want is waiting on the other side of the morning you're willing to master. Wake up with intention, not reaction, because the first few minutes of your morning quietly decide the direction of your entire day. Most people don't actually wake up. They resurface, their eyes open, but their minds are immediately pulled into someone else's agenda. Notifications, messages, news, problems, comparisons, all rushing in before a single conscious decision is made. That is not waking up, that is surrendering control. Intention means you wake up already decided about who you are, how you will think, and what will matter today. Reaction means you allow external stimuli to shape your emotions before you've even stood up. In 2026, attention is the most expensive currency on the planet. And the first thing the world wants from you every morning is your focus. If you give it away too early, you spend the rest of the day trying to buy it back with caffeine, motivation, and stress. Waking up with intention is choosing silence before noise, clarity before chaos, and direction before distraction. It is understanding that your mind is most impressionable in the first moments of the day, and whatever you feed it becomes the lens through which you interpret everything that follows. When you wake up with intention, you don't ask, what's happening today? You ask, what do I want today to become? You don't start by checking what others expect from you. You start by reinforcing what you expect from yourself. This shift alone separates leaders from followers, creators from consumers, and builders from spectators. Reaction keeps you busy, but intention makes you effective. Reaction makes you emotional, but intention makes you strategic. When you wake up intentionally, you reclaim authorship over your life one morning at a time. You breathe before you browse. You think before you tap. You choose before you respond. And that single choice made daily compounds into confidence, consistency, and control. Over time, people will call you disciplined, focused, or lucky, but they want to see the real reason you decided to stop letting the world wake you up. You chose to wake yourself up instead. Prime the mind before the world competes for it, because once the competition starts, most people have already lost. The modern world is not fighting for your time. It is fighting for your attention, your beliefs, and ultimately your direction. From the moment you wake up, there are algorithms designed to influence how you feel, what you fear, and what you desire. If you allow those influences to reach your mind before you have established your own internal framework, you spend the rest of the day reacting emotionally instead of thinking strategically. Priming the mind means setting the tone before outside voices attempt to set it for you. It is choosing your thoughts before consuming other people's opinions. The mind is like wet cement in the early morning. Whatever steps on it leaves an impression. That is why the first inputs matter more than any motivation you try to force later. When you prime your mind intentionally, you decide what thoughts are welcome and which ones are not. You remind yourself of your values before being tempted to compromise them. You reinforce belief before doubt has a chance to enter. This is not about positive thinking, it is about controlled thinking. It is about understanding that clarity is a competitive advantage in a distracted world. When your mind is primed, information does not overwhelm you, it gets filtered. Problems don't derail you, they get evaluated. Opportunities don't confuse you, they get recognized. Without priming, even good information becomes noise, and noise always leads to indecision. In 2026, the people who win are not the ones who know the most, but the ones who can think clearly under pressure. And clarity does not appear magically at noon, it is cultivated deliberately in the morning. Priming the mind can look simple: reflection, reading, affirmations, visualization, but its impact is profound. It trains your brain to respond instead of react, to observe instead of panic, to lead instead of follow. Over time, this discipline rewires how you interpret reality. You stop seeing obstacles as threats and start seeing them as instructions. You stop borrowing confidence from external validation and start generosity. Internally. When the world finally does compete for your attention, and it will, you are no longer vulnerable because you are already anchored. You are not asking the day to give you focus, you are bringing focus into the day. And that is the difference between a mind that survives information overload and a mind that dominates it. Align the body to activate the brain, because the mind does not operate in isolation. It follows the condition of the body that carries it. Most people try to think their way into energy, focus, and discipline. But the truth is the brain responds faster to movement than to motivation. When the body is stagnant, the mind becomes sluggish. When the body is neglected, the brain compensates with fog, distraction, and emotional instability. In 2026, peak performance is no longer just about intelligence or talent. It is about physiology. How you breathe, how you move, how you posture yourself in the first part of the day directly determines the quality of your thinking for the rest of it. Alignment is not about extreme workouts or physical perfection. It is about signaling to your nervous system that you are awake, capable, and in control. Simple movement shifts blood flow, oxygenates the brain, and wakes up decision-making centers that remain dormant in a sedentary state. When you move with intention in the morning, you are not exercising to impress others, you are activating clarity, confidence, and cognitive speed. The body is the switch that turns the brain on. This is why movement precedes momentum. When you align your body, your thoughts become sharper, your emotions become regulated, and your reactions become measured. You stop operating from fatigue and start operating from readiness. People often underestimate how much of their stress is physical, not mental. Tight muscles create tight thinking. Shallow breathing creates anxious interpretation. Poor posture reinforces low confidence on a subconscious level. When the body is aligned, the brain receives a different message. You are safe, strong, and prepared. That message changes how you interpret challenges, conversations, and decisions throughout the day. Alignment also builds discipline without force. You don't need to argue with your mind about focus when your body has already created it. Energy is no longer something you chase with caffeine and sugar. It becomes something you generate naturally. Over time, this practice rewires your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who is physically engaged with life, not passively observing it. That self-perception translates into decisive action and consistent follow-through. In a world where mental burnout is common and focus is fragmented, the people who win understand a simple truth: the fastest way to upgrade your thinking is to upgrade how you use your body. When the body is aligned, the brain doesn't struggle to perform. It is activated by default. Feed the spirit before feeding the ambition, because ambiti on without alignment eventually turns into exhaustion. Many people wake up already chasing, already calculating, already pressuring themselves to achieve more, earn more, become more. But when ambition is fed before the Spirit, success becomes noisy and hollow. You may move fast, but you feel empty. You may win publicly, but you struggle privately. Feeding the Spirit means grounding yourself before you grind, centering yourself before you chase outcomes. It is the practice of reconnecting with why you are doing what you are doing before asking how fast you can do it. The Spirit is where meaning lives, and meaning is what sustains effort over time. Without it, motivation becomes fragile and discipline becomes forced. When you feed the Spirit first, you remind yourself that your value is not tied to today's results. You cultivate gratitude before urgency, peace before pressure, and perspective before comparison. This creates an internal stability that ambition alone can never provide. In 2026, burnout is not caused by hard work. It is caused by disconnected work. People don't collapse because they aim high. They collapse because they forget who they are while aiming. Feeding the Spirit can be quiet and simple. Reflection, prayer, journaling, stillness, gratitude, or silence. But its effect is powerful. It recalibrates your internal compass so your ambition has direction instead of desperation. When the Spirit is fed, ambition becomes clean. You pursue goals without attaching you. Our identity to them. You strive without self-betrayal. You compete without resentment. This inner nourishment also changes how you handle setbacks. Failure no longer threatens your worth, and success no longer inflates your ego. You remain steady in both. Feeding the Spirit creates emotional resilience, which is the real competitive advantage in a volatile world. When pressure rises, you don't break down because you are not empty inside. You are anchored. Over time, people will notice that you move differently. You are ambitious but not anxious, focused but not frantic, driven but not desperate. That balance is not accidental. It is cultivated every morning by choosing to nourish the inner life before demanding performance from it. When you feed the Spirit first, ambition stops consuming you and starts serving you. And that is how success becomes sustainable, fulfilling, and aligned with the life you actually want to live. Decide the one thing that moves your life forward, because progress is not the result of doing many things. It is the result of doing the right thing consistently. Most people overwhelm themselves before the day even begins by creating long lists that feel productive but dilute focus. They confuse motion with momentum and busyness with effectiveness. When everything matters, nothing truly does. Deciding the one thing is an act of clarity and courage. It requires you to identify what actually creates leverage in your life instead of hiding behind low impact. Tasks that feel safe. This decision forces honesty. It asks you to confront what truly matters now, not what is urgent, familiar, or comfortable. The one thing is rarely easy, and it is almost never the thing everyone else is doing. That is why it works. In a world addicted to multitasking, singular focus becomes a superpower. When you decide the one thing early, the rest of the day organizes itself around that decision. Your time gains structure. Your energy gains direction. Your mind stops fragmenting itself across competing priorities. Instead of reacting to interruptions, you filter them through a clear objective. This does not mean other tasks disappear. It means they stop being in control. You are no longer asking, what should I do next? Because you already know what must be done first. This shift reduces mental fatigue, which is one of the biggest drains on performance. Decision fatigue disappears when the most important choice is made before the day begins. Over time, this practice compounds. Small, focused actions repeated daily create results that scattered effort never can. The one thing moves your life forward because it aligns with long-term growth, not short-term comfort. It might be a difficult conversation, a strategic project, a skill to develop, or a disciplined habit to reinforce. Whatever it is, it carries disproportionate impact. When you commit to it daily, confidence grows naturally, not from motivation, but from evidence. You begin to trust yourself because you keep showing up for what matters. This also changes how others perceive you. Focused people stand out in a distracted world. They move with intention, speak with clarity, and act with purpose. Deciding the one thing is not about perfection, it is about priority. You don't need perfect conditions, perfect timing, or perfect plans. You need a clear decision and the discipline to honor it. In 2026, the people who make the most progress will not be the busiest, they will be the most focused. And that focus begins every morning with a simple, powerful question. What is the one thing that, if done today, makes everything else easier or unnecessary? Win the morning to command the day, because the day never rises above how it begins. Mornings are not just a part of the day, they are the foundation of it. Whatever tone you set in the first hours quietly governs your decisions, your emotions, and your execution for everything that follows. Most people spend their days trying to recover from their mornings, recovering from rushing, reacting, scrolling, or starting behind. But when you win the morning, recovery is no longer necessary. You move from control instead of catch up. Winning the morning means you establish dominance over time before time starts making demands on you. It is the act of proving to yourself, early and consistently, that you are in charge of your choices. This creates psychological authority. You don't feel rushed because you are prepared. You don't feel overwhelmed because you are organized. You don't feel distracted because you are anchored. The confidence that people try to manufacture later in the day is actually built quietly before most of the world wakes up. When you win the morning, discipline becomes your default state instead of something you force under pressure. You've already kept promises to yourself before distractions arrive, and that momentum carries forward. Small wins early create a winning identity, and identity drives behavior far more powerfully than motivation ever could. Commanding the day does not mean controlling every event. It means controlling your response to every event. And that control is earned in the morning through preparation, clarity, and intentional action. When challenges arise, you don't panic because you are not depleted. When opportunities appear, you recognize them because your mind is not cluttered. Winning the morning also changes how time feels. The day slows down, not because there is less to do, but because you are no longer scattered. You move deliberately. You decide faster. You waste less energy second-guessing yourself. Over time, this compounds into authority. Not just externally, but internally. You trust yourself. You trust your systems. You trust your ability to execute. That trust is what allows you to lead, create, and perform at a high level consistently. In 2026, when distractions are constant and demands are endless, the people who command their days will not be the most talented or the most motivated. They will be the most prepared. And preparation always starts in the morning. Win it consistently, and the day has no choice but to follow your lead. In closing, understand this. The life you want is not built in moments of intensity, but in moments of intention. Every morning is a silent vote for the person you are becoming. When you wake up with purpose, prime your mind, align your body, feed your spirit, focus on what truly matters, and win the morning, you are no longer hoping for a better future. You are designing one. 2026 will not be shaped by chance or comfort, but by disciplined choices made before the world demands your attention. If you can master your mornings, you will not just manage your days, you will command your direction, your results, and ultimately your life. The question is no longer whether the routine works. The question is whether you are ready to commit to becoming the person it requires.